All right, today's topic, I'm just going to do a little fly around. And as I go through this, I am going to kind of talk through what I'm doing with the flight controls. For the sake of brevity, what I'm going to do is every time I push the force trim button, I'm going to say the word trim. I'm going to do my best to associate a flight control input I'm making. So usually like forward cyclic, left cyclic, right cyclic, left pedal, right pedal, etc. And I'm just going to kind of walk through my process on what I'm doing here. Now, this is going to differ slightly from what I would typically do in the actual aircraft. All right, just because there are there are limitations to DCS that don't exist in the actual aircraft, right? Namely, I have a centering stick here, right? I've got a Hotess Warthog. That's what I'm running. It's mounted on my desk. It's about shoulder level. And there's quite a bit of spring pressure on it. So that's what I'm using. In addition to that, special options, I'm using the center position trim, and then I will show you here what my axis stuff looks like. All right. Whoop, that's the wrong one. Axis tune. There we go. So I'm running about a 3, and this varies. 3% is about average, 3 to 6%, 80% saturation, 10% curve on the y-axis. Over here on the x-axis, it's the same thing. Let me see. I don't think I have anything on my collective. 70% Y saturation on the collective is what I got there. And then, let's see, pedals. I've got a 6% curve there with 80% Y saturation and then 10% curve. All right. Also, I'm one of those weirdos where I am a push for collective rather than a pull. All right. So I push just because I've been flying flight sims for a really long time that way. So, and I'm lazy and I don't like having to constantly switch back and forth. So I push for collective. Anyway, all right. So first thing, 27-30%. We're gonna bring in a little bit of collective there. Let me make sure that that is unlocked. Cool. And now I'm gonna displace that cyclic forward a little bit. Need a little bit more. Need a little bit of pedal. All right. Now right here, I'm gonna trim recenter. Oh, did I switch it? I guess I did. I guess I switched to instant trim. Okay, cool. That might make this a little interesting. I forgot I was experimenting with that. Anyway, same concept. So now I'm just going to go a little forward cyclic trim right there. Cool. Unlock the tail wheel. The light is on. And now I'm going to apply a little bit of pedal in the direction of my turn. My tail is clear. My nose is clear. I'm going to come up the transition symbology just so I can help maintain that level fuselage a little easier. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of opposite pedal here, trim. Yep, a little bit of pedal trim. Yep, now I'm dancing on the pedals trim. There we go. Okay, I'm having to get used to instant trim on the fly here, so anyway. Let's see, a little bit of half cyclic now to start slowing the helicopter down. Trim. Cool. Let's see, tail is clear, nose is clear, a little bit of left pedal now, a little bit of left cyclic as I come around. I need to reduce the torque just a little bit. All right, I don't want to overshoot too much, so I'm going to feed in a little bit of right pedal, right about there. Trim. Oh, I don't have to recenter. Instant trim's going to throw me. Anyway, I'll probably crash. This will be fun. Tail is clear, and nose is clear. Get to the center line here. Notice that I'm keeping that acceleration cue at the tip of the line of sight, 12 o'clock probe in the line of sight. That's about 6 knots of ground speed. I can also reference the ground speed down in my lower left portion of the HDU there. That's the waypoint status window, and that's giving me that ground speed indication. Once I get rolled out, I'm going to lock the tail wheel, verify that the light is off, and then I can come up to hover symbology, aft cyclic, bring the acceleration cue and the velocity vector to the center of the line of sight. Once I get there, I'm going to trim, reduce that collective, a little bit of right pedal, trim, and bam, there we go. Looking good. All right, now pick the aircraft up to a hover. I've probably got a little bit more left cyclic than I need. We'll just have to see what's going on here as I pick the aircraft up. So I am not interrupting the force trim. I'm just increasing that collective left cyclic, left pedal. Just kind of watching out in front of me here. Checking that horizon out in front of me. That's a little bit too much pedal and cyclic. All right, right about there we go. Starting to come up. I still got a little bit too much there. Yep. Instant trim's going to be the death of me today. All right, here we go. And trim. cool. There we go. Get the aircraft kind of back under control. Notice I'm just looking outside. I'm not focusing on my symbology too terrible much. I am trying to keep that trim ball centered just because that is useful, right? And then I'm going to trim here. Cool. Oops, there we go. All right, now I'm going to commence with the takeoff. So this is how I'm going to do takeoff. Transition symbology, forward cyclic. Increase the collective just a little bit. Keep the aircraft in ground effect. I'm not interrupting the trim. Not interrupting the trim. A little bit of pedal here, trying to maintain that ground track alignment as I go. A little bit more collective, a little bit more right pedal for aerodynamic trim. More right pedal, more right pedal, more right pedal. There we go. Trim. Okay, right about there. A little bit more collective. Right there. Trim. All right, cool. Nice. Forward flight. Right about there. Still trying to get my 90 knots. 90 knot pitch attitude is about wings level right there. Trim. And we're still climbing. Got good ground track alignment. I'm placing the runway heading 09 between the velocity vector and the lever line. It's ensuring I'm ground tracking as desired. Continuing my climb up. Trim. Just because I felt like I was having to put hold just a little bit of forward cyclic in there. A little bit fast, so I need a little bit of half cyclic. A little bit of collective reduction, a little bit of right pedal trim. Recenter there. There we go. Still a little bit fast, so I'm going to pull just a little bit more. Oh, no. Airspeed's starting to slow down just a little bit. A little bit of pedal. And trim. Alright. Still climbing. Looking good. Clear around to the left. So now I'm just going to try and hold the pitch attitude as I come around. Notice that I am not interrupting the force trim. I'm going to feed in just a little bit of left pedal. Trying to keep the trim ball centered. Still in the climb. That's too much left pedal. Coming on around. So that was a 09. So now I'm going to look for a 270 ground track. Continuing to turn. Continuing to climb. Trying to keep the horizon line there. Still have not touched the trim. I'm just kind of doing everything manually right now. I still have the benefit of SAS when I'm doing that. Still climbing up. A little bit of right pedal there. Alright. 800 feet AGL. That's good enough for me. I'm going to pull a little aft cyclic. Put in that little bit of right pedal. Alright. Controls are back to neutral. That's cool. We'll kind of get everything balanced back the way we want it. And now I'm going to trim. I need to come a little bit further to the left, place 270 between that velocity vector and level line to ensure that I'm ground tracking on my desired ground track, which is, 270. I can also look over here at the lane and use these magical things called the windows. Check that out. It's a window. I can actually see that I'm parallel to the lane there. I'm a little fast, so I'm going to reduce the collective just slightly. A little bit of left pedal trim. Nope, that was actually right pedal. Now I need a little bit more left pedal trim. There we go. Alright, so everything's kind of more or less trimmed up. Now, if I were in a real Apache, I'd probably be clicking the force trim a whole lot more here, right? Because, as I'm transitioning from trees to grass to maybe like, dirt patches or different things like that, then I would, who's shooting at me? Anyway, then, I'd be getting a lot of thermals, I'd be getting a lot of, wind gusts and different things like that, right? It's pretty sterile in the sim world. Trim. I need a little bit more right pedal, a little bit more right cyclic, right there, trim. All right, cool. A little bit of collective, trim. And right about there, we'll go trim. All right, not quite at the point where I want to start my approach yet. Now this is where it's gonna differ just a little bit. It's a little bit of right cyclic trim. Typically, I would press and hold the force trim interrupted as I get ready to come in on this approach. I'm not going to do that here. There's really there's no reason for me to do that in DCS, especially if I want to gain the benefit of like the SAS and all that other kind of stuff just to make it a little bit more easier. So here's how it's going to go. I'm going to reduce the collective. I'm going to apply a little bit of right pedal as I do so. I'm going to pull a little aft cyclic. As I do that, right about here, I've got 500 foot per minute rate of climb or rate of descent in, right pedal, and trim. All right, cool. We're getting down to around 70 knots. I'm going to have to start bringing in a little bit of collective. Maintain my 500 foot per minute, a little bit of left pedal. Trim. All right, cool. We're getting down to around 70 knots. I'm going to have to start bringing in a little bit of collective. Maintain my 500 foot per minute, a little bit of left pedal. Trim. Keep the aircraft coming around. Coming down to about 700 feet AGL, right about there with the collective now. A little bit more left pedal. I'm not going to trim yet, just because I don't want to trim in the turn. I want my flight controls to more or less be at a level flight condition so that I can return them there. And I'm just going to keep coming on around. A little bit more left pedal. A little bit more left pedal. There we go. Keeping that trim ball centered. Nice coordinated turn. Looking for, I actually turned a little bit too sharp there. So now I'm going to come a little bit further to the right. Oop, I'm descending. I don't want to do that. Holding my 70 knots. Trim. All right, working on getting that linear perspective with the lane. I feel like I'm in a position where my approach angle would be pretty good, so I'm actually going to start reducing that collective now, which means I'm going to have to put in that little bit of right pedal. Right about here, getting the flight path vector on the markers there on the runway, right about there, and now I'm going to trim. All right, so there we go. Keep bringing that velocity, or keeping the acceleration cube behind the tip of the velocity vector, trying to keep the flight path vector on my intended point of landing. 500 foot per minute rate of descent, looking good. Still decelerating. I have not trimmed yet. Right about here now, I'm going to trim. All right, a little bit of collective to keep that flight path vector on my intended point of landing. A little bit of left pedal is going to be required here. A little bit of left cyclic, bring that flight path vector over to where I want it. And now I'm going to go trim. All right, still holding 500 foot per minute. Now at this point, I want to transition from a decelerative attitude to a maintenance attitude. So I'm basically going to maintain the acceleration cue in the exact same position that it is right now. It's about 30 knots of ground speed. That's pretty good. I'm about 150 feet. I'm at 51%. I'm going to need to start slowly feeding in that pedal. I'm going to start cheating my head tracker up and down the lane, increase the collective because I'm kind of under arcing. I need to bring in just a little bit more pedal. Easy girl. Easy girl. Right about there. Trim. A little bit more pedal. Hover symbology. There we go. And I got a little overzealous with the pedals there. Heading hold is now kicked in. It's going to help me out just a little bit. And come back here, right about there, trim. All right, so that's how I'm doing this. Whenever I'm flying the aircraft, that's my process in DCS anyway, right? That's how I do this. So I'm a little high too. I need to trim. And let's come on back down to 5 feet where we should be. All right. Now, if I need to maneuver, I'm not touching the trim necessarily to do these maneuvers because, again, I want those flight controls in a position where they will basically return the aircraft to a neutral position, right? So let's see. I'm going to start accelerating the aircraft forward here. All right, right there, right there. I'm not ready to trim just yet. Just holding that forward cyclic pressure in. Now I'm going to go about 90 knot attitude, 500 foot per minute rate of climb, right pedal trim. All right. Trim is there. Now, if I need to maneuver the aircraft, I'm not going to touch the trim. I'm just going to maneuver the aircraft. I know that as I come around, I probably need to put in just a little bit of pedal, trying to keep that trim ball centered the best I can. The aircraft is also trying to do that a little bit. All right. And I can really kind of like maneuver this thing around, right? You know? Because I'm banking, I'm turning the aircraft with bank. I'm not turning the aircraft with the pedals. If I start rolling out, I'm going to have to start taking the pedal that I brought in out, more aft cyclic, maintain that level VSI, slow the aircraft back, slow the aircraft back, slow the aircraft back. All right, right there, I'm going to have to start feeding in the left pedal, feeding in the left pedal, feeding in the left pedal, right about there. All right. And right about here, I'm going to trim. Whoop, don't descend. There we go. A little bit more collective. Maintain my altitude. A little bit more aft cyclic. There we go. Bringing the acceleration cue to the center of the line of sight. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more collective. Trim. Ooh, easy with the left pedal there. Yikes. All right. So about like that. Now, if I need to get out of here, I'm at a low speed, and I need to change my direction. A little bit of left pedal. Beware that you will spike the torque, especially if you're in a heavy aircraft. Bring in that left pedal, try and get that nose to tail trim back since I'm down low here. There we go. Right about here, I'm going to go trim. Okay. Trim. Keep the aircraft accelerating, moving around. We need to come around to the right. I'm going to bank the aircraft over, aft cyclic, to help turn the aircraft around. I need a little bit more right pedal, right pedal, right pedal, right pedal. Transferring my airspeed to maintain my altitude. I can get progressively steeper on the bank. I can pull more aft cyclic, really G-load the aircraft. I need to feed some of that right pedal, or take some of that right pedal out. Notice I have not trimmed. Have not trimmed. Now I can return the aircraft back to where I was, my original heading, and maneuver the aircraft. Haven't trimmed. Don't need to trim right now. Okay. Now I can do this to the left as well, trying to keep that trim ball centered the best I can. I'm trading off that airspeed to maintain my altitude, and actually I've got, a lot of torque in here as well, and now I can bring the aircraft on around. Okay. Notice that I'm not leading these turns with my pedals. Like I'm not doing that, because that's not what you do. That is not the pilot thing that you were supposed to do. All right. I'm going to bank the aircraft over, aft cyclic, trade off airspeed if I need to maintain that altitude, pedal to help maintain the aircraft in aerodynamic trim as I'm doing this nice coordinated flight. And then as I come around, I got to take that pedal out, return back, and I can immediately roll back into a left turn. Okay, so it's aft cyclic here. Notice I'm pulling aft cyclic to maintain and establish, well, really to establish and maintain that turn. All right. I'm keeping the pedals relatively neutral. Like I haven't trimmed. Like right now, I feel like I got to put too much forward cyclic in for what I'm trying to do, so I'm going to trim. Okay. And let's see here. What else can we do? We can go up. We can bank the aircraft on over. A little bit of pedal just to help maintain the aircraft in aerodynamic trim. Continue banking the aircraft around. Aft cyclic. Oh man, I'm getting shot at. And come around. All right. This is like the second video I've done where I've demonstrated, like, you don't use your pedals to turn the helicopter, especially at speed. You know what? This is probably going to crash me, and then I'll end the video with that if it does. But I'm going to just jam in left pedal, and let's see what happens. Oh, I ran out of cyclic authority and bounced off the ground. Yeah, weird. That's exactly what I kind of expected, because I am rolling the helicopter. I'm jamming in left pedal. That's going to cause the aircraft to roll to the right. Not only that, I'm putting the tail rotor broadside to the airstream, which is going to cause an issue with the tail rotor. It's going to cause a massive change in thrust in the tail rotor as well. Like, there are so many things. There are many things wrong with what I just did there. If this is how you're flying the helicopter, if this is how you're maneuvering the helicopter at low altitudes, or even and high speeds, this is what's going to happen. Like, this is what I just did there. You would never do that in a real helicopter. You would never lead with that right pedal. You would never lead with that left pedal. It's bank the aircraft over, aft cyclic, pull yourself through the turn. Never jam in a bunch of pedal, and that's it. That's really it. So there it is. That's kind of my process. Things to think about. Rehash of old topics. But there you go. Have a good one.